Brian coming? Coming?
About Jeffrey.
I just messaged him.
Oh, yeah, we're on,
He
guys.
didn't- he hasn't got back to me yet, but.
All right, we're going to call to order the Deerfield Parks and Recreation Commission meeting for January 2nd. First item on the agenda is the minutes of December meeting. Have a motion for those?
Motion to accept the minutes for December?
Second it.
Any comments or changes on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have a visitor tonight that we're gonna, if it's all right with the members, that we move her up so she doesn't have to sit the whole meeting.
Sure.
Sylvia with Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
Yes,
If you could go over to the microphone.
of course.
It's Jeff D.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So you're here for,
So basically, I asked Sylvia, I invited her to this meeting to kind of get our gears turning as a commission about possible capital improvement items for the next 6 years. She recently attended one of the department head meetings in early December and kind of just talked to all of us about, thinking toward the future and what we can use to improve our personal areas. So being Parks and Rec, and us just finishing up with the ball fields project at Hartford Brook, I figured it'd be good to start looking ahead to what else we could, start improving. So she's here to help us, give guidance to us in that pathway. So, I guess if there are any potential things that poke out to you guys, I personally thought about it, but, as a commission, if you guys have ideas that you can throw out there, she's gonna help us shape the vision if we have one, so.
so what would your role be in this planning for us?
A couple of thoughts. First, wow. So, first, I don't know if everyone knows about Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. For the record then, we assist 14 communities in the Manchester region. Deerfield is one of those communities. As far as my role with Deerfield, I also act as the Deerfield Town Planner. And so recently, as far as capital improvement program goes, the planning board has really wanted to update the capital improvement program. The school is very interested. The town and the school collects impact fees. In order to make use of those impact fees, the town needs to have an updated capital improvement program. For the record, the capital improvement program is a 6-year sort of a plan that outlines capital projects that could be equipment, it could be land purchase, it could be studies, it could be building improvements. Typically over, in Deerfield's case, the town administrator would like it to be at least a minimum of $20,000. Some communities are as low as $5,000, some as high as $25,000, and probably more. That's a threshold for the cost of the project. As far as Parks and Rec, where you're usually looking at a future project, you're looking towards, let's say, the town master plan, because there's a recreation chapter in the town master plan. You might do a survey. If we know the town master plan is also out of date, over 10 years, I think, old. And so this group might consider doing a survey with the community. Those are really easy to set up. You can put it on the website. It can be a SurveyMonkey survey. And sort of asking the residents, what is their interest? We know that Deerfield is sort of slow but steadily growing, not a lot. I think, even in the next 10 years, it's just going to be a little bit over 5,000 in population. We know that your school enrollment is also very, very slow, if not leveled off. But interests in, resident interests change over time. Last 20 years, maybe they were interested in this sort of recreation. Next 20, they'll be in a different recreation. Or maybe it's the same. I don't know. It's a beautiful rural community. You have a beautiful, pleasant lake. You have ponds. You have a nice ball field. You have a gazebo and town hall area. So I'm not sure what this group might think for future residents. The capital improvement program is a 6-year plan. So I don't know, I heard that you're just finishing up one project. What our role is really just to assist you in guiding your thought process. If you need help doing a survey, we can help do that. It wasn't exactly in the scope of work, but it's not heavy lifting for us to help with something like that. There is a time constraint here, though. We're trying to make sure that the town is in line with requirements with the impact fees. So our goal is to have this capital improvement program for the next 6 years ready by, like, say, the end of March, early April. It doesn't give a lot of time. It doesn't give a lot of time at all. Absolutely admit that. But we are sort of, putting our own tight deadline on this because of this impact fee conundrum, if you will. Right now, because of the lack of an updated capital improvement program, someone could question collecting impact fees and utilizing them at this date, and people don't want to give back money. You can understand that. So that's why. Now, this should get updated every year, and so that's something to keep in mind as well. That might have just generated more questions than I answered because I covered a lot of topics in a short time, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
One of the projects that I know we've talked about here and there is the rebuilding of the bicentennial field. I wonder if a project like that would fall under this situation.
Yeah, I think for the money-wise, it would, for sure.
Yeah.
But I know Jeff's actually mentioned trying to find more ball fields, too, and that could be something in the long term to put into it.
Land purchase is definitely one of the items, and depending, like when you say rebuilding of the bicentennial field, what's in your mind? What does that entail?
Well, the problem with the field is it's really, the ground is wavy, and it makes it difficult to really have any kind of a soccer game down there, and it's just not, it needs to be dealt with so that we have a nice flat field there for any sports that are played there.
Mm-hmm.
It floods all the
The
time.
drainage issues, too.
Yeah.
I mean, drainage issues, so it drains right into the field. Baseball, Little League in the spring, it's a mess,
Yeah.
right? It just, overall, the fields just need to be ripped up, redone.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's drainage, leveling them, reseeding them.
Okay. And there could be multiple uses. There could be year-round uses. We were talking about ice skating rinks earlier. So you could have ball fields and ice skating rink. It could be a variety of things, especially if there's water there. You could regrade to have a low area and,
It's not really extra space, I would say you want to grade for a low area.
no.
There's wetlands out back. Better off snow plowing a pond and playing. But I think from a commission's perspective, sitting back, because a bottleneck we're dealing with right now, it's winter, it's basketball. We have one basketball court for the whole town, including the school, right? that's like having one baseball field for softball and baseball and to share, right? I mean, that's just asinine, to put it bluntly. I mean, that's a big bottleneck that, it's not a cheap project, but looking at the
I think
holistic.
space in general is a bottleneck, yeah.
Yeah, but I think just sitting back as a commission saying, okay, where's the sports? What sports do we have? What fields do we have? What has to be fixed? What, instead of just fixing what can be modified, is there a way to incorporate basketball into it too? Whether it's an aluminum structure to put some rubberized courts down or something that, but just sitting back, I know it's 3 months, which is not a lot of time to look at stuff, but look at where are we today? Kind of how many teams do we have? Where are the bottlenecks and the headaches? You guys with your scheduling and say, okay, is it baseball, softball, basketball? We got the football kids now in town. What does it overall look like, and kind of how do we prioritize that? What do we get the most bang for the buck?
I think that's all good stuff for a capital improvement plan of 6 years, or we could go more than 6, right? I mean, we could go out 10 years, or are we trying to stay with just 6 and
Capital
update?
improvement program typically is a 6-year timeline. If you want to go further out, they sort of doing that master plan. I mean, you can create your own Parks and Rec strategic plan and almost redoing the chapter in the master plan, which is a 10-year. Has any survey been done to survey residents what they would like to see, what they use now, and what improvements they'd like to see?
Not overall.
Nothing current, nothing that general.
We've done it with specific sports.
Sports, right.
Like, so we did it with soccer. Like, do they want camps, winter programs, summer programs, but we haven't stepped back and done it as a whole commission,
Okay. So
which we should do.
that might be a start, and then, because then you can base your capital improvement program on something. You know, and then because any program or project you want to put forward, you have to, again, then do outreach to the community, and it has to, you need to, so to speak, sell that idea that you're not going to just waste time and put forth something that nobody's going to want, So this way you can say, well, we had this survey up for 3 weeks, and 50% of those people who participated, chose this, or whatever the outcome of that survey is, but that would at least provide some background and reasoning for whatever you're putting forward.
Is there any grant money available at certain levels? Like if you had, just you said ice skating rinks, if there was an incentive to build something versus something else?
Good question. I don't have an answer to that.
As far as the survey goes, or the planning work, is there a cost to that?
We, if it is not an extensive survey, and we're working right now with Goffstown, Ware, and Hooksett on surveys for their master plan. We could probably utilize some of the questions we've already developed for their recreation chapters and restructure it a bit to work for Deerfield. And if that's the case, that wouldn't be heavy lifting, and we could just use that, and there would be no cost to you. We're already being paid to help with this CIP, so I'm throwing that in, as long as it's not a crazy time crunch. I think we can manage that. It's not something, for example, that I anticipated as far as the scope of work, but I can see the more folks we talk to, like right now, I have another staff member over at school board, which is where I thought I was going to be tonight. But I wanted to make sure that someone was here at this meeting, and the more folks we talk to, the more things come up, and yeah.
What's the timeline, April 1st, you said?
Well, really, I have so far been talking the end of March. I don't know how realistic that is. I know the school would like it yesterday. So, this, it really depends on Deerfield and the representatives from Deerfield. But as far as if we helped out, we worked with staff here and with John Harrington, if he was okay with this, we could probably, by the end of next week, as quick as that, get a preliminary survey. You folks could review it. You could do a subcommittee so that there's no issue. If you had a subcommittee working with us, we could put that together pretty quickly. And we could get that up and running on your website.
I think that sounds like a good idea, to try to get a survey out there, because like you said, we've done specifics, but nothing in general. So,
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot the town's trying to do. It'd be great to see the town, overall, it'd be good to see the town step back because the school has bottlenecks, I know. So to be able to sit back, if there's a common denominator to say, hey, look, Park and Rec has this bottleneck here, the school has this bottleneck in the town, how do we kind of move the pieces to fit best together? Just in my limited time being involved in the town, I've noticed the town we don't work together very much. We kind of work as a bunch of silos. So I don't know if that's part of this master plan, but just from an efficiency perspective, not to have a bunch of little projects, if someone's actually sitting back saying, how do we move these pieces to utilize funds the best? Does that make sense? And is that part of
Well-
this scope?
Ideally, but
No.
that's tricky.
yeah.
Okay.
I think your best bet is, one, working with staff, really figure out, is it this bicentennial field you might want to tackle? Is it, what is it that you think in the next 6 years you'd like to really see? If you're not sure, we can do a general, the questions can be relatively general. We can do that, plus trigger right into, focus right into the bicentennial field and ask, are people interested in seeing something there? You also mentioned basketball courts. Would people like to see more indoor, what am I thinking? Indoor courts or some indoor,
Indoor active facilities.
yeah, indoor facilities. And we also know that every community is aging in New Hampshire. And there are a lot of young people who are leaving the state. So, wondering if it would be important to ask about seniors that are living here, what do they have as far as places to meet and engage? So it's not just sports, right? It's recreation and engagement. So the engagement part would be, playing cards or whatever it is, people like to do just to get in and meet. One thing you may not be aware, we worked with every single community on our age-friendly program, and we did a survey already with every community on engagement and recreation. So we do have some information that is already been distributed to every town, but you can also go to the SNHPC website, look for the age-friendly section, and you can find what was said about recreation engagement. I can also zero that in and get you, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll look at that age-friendly survey and see what people said about recreation and engagement. That might be somewhat helpful. But again, young people, very little people, and older people and their needs. And
So the first step is to survey people to identify what the program should be. And then if we were gonna do a project with a $20,000 threshold, we would look to have it completed within 6 years?
yes and no. The completed part is a little bit not necessarily, you may just want to begin plans, engineering or study or, so let's say it's the bicentennial field, that might be a 2-phase program. And, phase 1 may be just the general concept planning and engineering for that. If there's drainage involved, facilities, I don't know what else. And then another phase would be construction. So it could be a 2-part. Sometimes that burns you because you only get funding for one and then you don't get funding for the other. So every community strategy is a little different. But that could be, you want to also work with the town administrator on timing, because a capital improvement program should be balanced. It shouldn't be all projects in 2020. It should be, sort of, you balance the needs of the community. So we know that one thing we've been talking about so far is replacing the roof on this building. Typically, maintenance items are not in a capital improvement program, but when it has a large cost to it, and that it's sort of a 20-year life or more, then it's part of the capital improvement program. So a big project like replacing a roof. But we've also heard about a possible police facility, some kind of emergency management building. You talked about collaborating with other departments or even the school. That would take even more time, because collaboration, even though it saves money in the end, it takes more time. You have more people at the table. So that might be a 3-phase, a study, then planning, then engineering, and then actual construction. So, it could be beyond that 6-year. We're really looking for projects to be voted by the town starting in 2020. So unless you have something you want on the warrant this year, which would have to be ready in a couple of weeks because the town administrator would need to know that right away. Our timeline for the start of this project, whatever it is, would be earliest 2020. But again, once we have a list of all the projects and the intended dates, whether it's the planning board or the board of selectmen, they're going to start talking about how to balance this 6-year program. So some things may need to wait a year, especially if you have a large project like, let's say, replacing this roof and they're already seeing leaks. We already know this building has flooded. Just a couple weeks ago, I walked through 2 inches of water getting to the planning office, and files were melting as every single minute passed. So there are issues with this building. So I'd imagine that some of those projects may be on the top of that list. And then, not to discourage you, but we can't just have like let me make it a more positive spin. When you put together a project, you need cost estimates, you need a good scope of work. Because when you're in front of the residents come deliberative session, you need to be able to say you need to be able to say, yep, I have 3 estimates for this. This is the going rate, instead of just, this is what the committee thought the cost would be. So you need things to back up your costs and the scope of work. That's why the survey is so good, because a survey will help at least back up your scope of work and why you're suggesting the work.
So on your 6-year plan, could you have, like, year 1 would be engineering study for Bicentennial Field, year 4 might be construction of Bicentennial Field, break it down that way?
You could.
Yeah. So how do we go about doing the survey? What do you need?
My suggestion is that you appoint a few members, whatever So, because I don't want to get your group in trouble with having a quorum, right? I don't know if that would be conducting business outside of the scope of this group. So having maybe 2 people on this committee plus staff work out the details of the survey. And then we can do some email back and forth. We can put together some questions we think are reasonable. I would go with no more than 10 questions. It should be really quick. So we can say to any resident, this will take you 5 minutes. We also would need to get approval from John Harrington that they can put that, something like that on the website. I think he'll actually like it because it's to create your capital improvement program. So I would think that would be favorable. I don't know your website. I think it's pretty easy to manipulate and someone can do that. So we just have to find out, because we're just talking now. Nobody's checked in with anyone. So we have to check in with John about doing this. We'd need a couple of folks for you to volunteer. I can't imagine it'd be a lot of time. What we can do is put together a draft survey, send it to you, and see what you think. Make some comments, and then give you a survey. That could even happen by the end of this week or early next week. And then all of you can take it, see what you think, and, to be legal about that, if all of you took it, let's think about that. You could probably provide us information, but not email each other about the survey. Then it wouldn't be conducting a meeting. Just have to keep everybody on the up and up.
Have you done any survey like this for a recreation committee here? I mean, any ideas on what questions or how they'd be?
Oh, absolutely. Not specifically recreation. We're working, like I mentioned earlier, with the towns of Ware, Goffstown, and Hooksett. Right now, we've already done survey work for Derry and Bedford, so our middle name is practically survey when I come to think of it. But yeah, it's really a great way to get some quick information from your residents. And as long as we can say something like, 5-minute survey, we'll do an introduction, a quick introduction. If you folks want to carve out an introduction for us, what your intent would be, it's usually 1 paragraph, that'd be great. And then your committee could sign it. If you want to, how often do you meet?
Once a month.
So you'd need to craft that here and now if you want the whole committee to approve of whatever survey. So we'd need you to approve conducting the survey. We'd need you to approve a subcommittee and then working with us.
Jeff, I think like an intro could be good, just to lay out why we're doing it and some of the headaches or things that we're looking at, but want their feedback. For example, there's issues with ball fields flooding, and there's a bottleneck with basketball courts, and here's some of the things we're looking at, but we want to make sure that we're spending money in the appropriate manner. So I think something like that could be good, because I don't know how many parents. So I know you said the school's growing slow, but I mean, Zach from the school board was here not too long ago, and he said that, they've already hit their numbers that the survey told them they'd be at by 2026, that they're at max capacity at the school right now. And I know that from this fall program, the youngest group in our town is huge. We have so many little kids in town right now. That's actually the biggest part of our programs. So maybe putting that out there, that these younger programs are really growing, and we want to make sure that we know we're going in the right direction, plus also the seniors. I know we just got the bus,
Right.
but making sure seniors feel included, that it's just not sports related. Whether it's knitting, pottery, or some of the other programs I know that the ladies come over and help with your after-school program on. I know my parents are down in Salem, and they've got an unbelievable, granted bigger town, but an unbelievable seniors program down there. They go to Red Sox games together. They have like a dine out once a month, and they use like their town bus, and they all go for dinner. There's a lot of like cool programs you could do for that over 60 crowd.
Who would we target with the survey? The full population of the town, or like just people that are associated with Parks and Rec already? The wider the better?
The wider the better.
That's the hard part, though, is how do you get to the seniors?
Well, your own staff can help with that, but we know already I think we have some contacts from the church, but your different staff will help and, yeah.
Could we post it to the Deerfield Facebook page? I mean,
Yeah,
it
oh,
seems like
absolutely.
Everybody goes there.
Yeah.
The regular one, not the real one.
Yeah.
If you, and I can leave some cards, if anyone wants to send us Facebook links, anything like that. We've done a lot of good stuff on Facebook.
So I guess we can take a vote. I think, are people interested in doing this survey, Monkey? And I think we are.
I think that's important. For the
So
voice of the customer.
is there anyone interested in helping Sylvia put this together in the next 2 or 3 days?
Yeah, I could help out with that.
I can help you. It's in 2 or 3 days, not 2 to 3 weeks. I can,
So maybe Amy and Jeff could
I'll mind.
get your card and you guys can talk.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is one of the survey questions that you'd be willing to see tax dollars spent to get what you're looking for?
Excellent question. We did that in Bedford. They wanted us to, just pass. Yes.
Okay. Oh, what am I doing?
About the mic. So the question was, should a question be, are you willing to spend tax dollars on fill in the blank? I'll give you an example of what we did for Bedford. So Bedford, many of the folks have been talking about wanting a community center. And so we asked the basic question, do you think the town would benefit from a community center? And something like, I want to say 60% said yes, and like 25 said no, and the rest were unsure. The second question was, would you be willing to spend taxpayer dollars on creating a community center? And so it dropped to, let's say, 45% yes, and more unsure than no. And what that does is it tells you that people want details. They want details, and it also tells the town, if you want to spend time and energy on this project, you really need to inform the people who are unsure. I think the no votes are always going to be no votes. People are concerned about raising their taxes. There's some people just who vote no every time. But there are people who just are not sure what they're going to get for their dollar and they need more information. And that's okay. All of it's okay. But it does inform you quite a bit. So the taxpayer dollar question is really a good one.
I almost put that as a sub-question on if we have 10 questions, you could put that as a sub on each one.
Yeah, I think it depends. What do you, like, so far I'm hearing a sports-related question, non-sport-related question, maybe something specifically for seniors, maybe something about specifically Bicentennial Field. Anything else this group is interested in?
It's
That's-
almost a recreation center in a way.
It is, yeah. So you're hitting on it. It's a recreation center. If you're putting up the courts, you're probably gonna have to put their offices there, and you might as well put a couple rooms in for senior functions and stuff, so it's,
Is this all at the Bicentennial Field?
no, that's
It would be a
that's just a
separate-
little field across the street.
Where are we talking then?
We don't know.
That's a good
We'd have to figure that out. The town has a lot of land, Mr. Selectman.
Yeah.
I mean, the town owns a lot of pieces of property around And there's a couple big parcels in town, which would be great to see a police station and a town center on, if the school would be willing to play ball.
Don't go there, but
I won't.
there are town pieces that we could use that would be a good center of the town for recreation.
You could get seniors' sports, after-school program all in one place together.
All right, so I'm sorry, so it's Amy and
Jeff?
Jeff. Amy and Jeff are helping out. So if you could email me, so I have your email addresses. Any questions that this group specifically wants to have in that, I'd appreciate that you feed Amy or Jeff, or Amy and Jeff just send it to us.
Would you rather have us go through those two or send something directly to you?
I don't care.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I think it's better that you feed it to Amy and Jeff,
That's fine.
so that I'm only hearing
Yeah,
from
getting
these
from
two.
those two, yes.
Otherwise,
No, you're right.
it'd
That's
get a little
a good point.
crazy.
I would think also, if you guys have thoughts for an intro or something, like as to why we're doing it, so here's some of the headaches we have, but also maybe if people think we should have something in the intro paragraph about how is stuff funded today, right? How is fireworks paid for? How is the summer music paid for, right? It's all paid for through kids' programs, right? So I don't think a lot of people actually understand that fireworks and the summer music festivals and all that are paid through the tuition of kids, right? So maybe having a little something explaining here's how we've operated, just to give some background with so many new people in town. And you two guys been here for a while and really kicked it off, so here's kind of how it started, here's how it's funded, and here's some of the issues we're having, and this is where we're going, or something. But think about what you guys think we should have in there to, I guess, prime their minds, so they understand where we're coming at with our questions. And also, where's the money coming from? If you're not gonna approve it, there's an expectation that you're gonna it's coming from something else, somebody else is paying for it. Like a cigarette tax. I don't know if that makes sense,
Yeah,
but.
no, it's, yeah. Because our recreational budget in town is the director's salary, and that's it. Everything else is run off a revolving account, which is basically funded by, programs here in town.
So how did your improvements with the ball field then get funded through those kids' programs?
We had a grant through, used to be DRED, but it's whatever it is now, Natural Resources of the State. And it was done, a lot of donations in kind, a lot of material cost only and labor. And if it was we had a warrant article too that passed. So we had the grant and a warrant article, and then I'd say 50% of it was from donations, in-kind donations.
Awesome.
Yeah. But, I don't want to cut you off, but we have a lot of stuff on our agenda. So.
I'm fine.
But,
Okay,
Jeff
so
and-
you're all set with me.
I think Jeff and Amy are good. Thank you very much for coming, and you may still get to the school meeting too.
Yes, I'm headed there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple more hours.
Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, I think this is a good thing.
So I think, just to wrap that up, do we need to come up with a paragraph, or do you two want to work on it, or?
Yes.
You could, yeah, I was gonna say, if you guys want to shoot over just something, here's the stuff you guys think should be in there,
Okay.
right? And then,
Yeah, without being too cumbersome, because if we're talking about a survey that people are gonna be open to taking, we don't wanna bog them down with too much, but I agree that there should be something, quick.
you could just say, hey, here's a survey, it's really important for
Yeah.
those that want a little background.
Yeah,
Here's 2 or 3 paragraphs that just explain kind of how the Park and
Yeah.
Rec was formed, how it's funded today, and some of the pressing issues that we've had looking at discussing during the commission meetings.
Mhm.
But you don't have to read on if you don't want to, basically, but, I mean, we could just do it that way.
2 pieces.
Thank you for coming.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Hey, Nick, thanks for inviting her. I think
They're
we'll do
2
good.
separate. All right, so we're gonna move on to financial update.
Okay, obviously, the end of the year is just behind us. I got some numbers from Pete, the bookkeeper, and they are 2018 numbers through the 28th. So these are not final for 2018, but pretty close, so I thought, we could have something to look at here. So this top page shows you 2018 on the left and 2017 on the right.
Dwight, I don't think we have copies of that.
Oh, this is it right here. It's under my file. Sorry, guys.
So basically, it shows the revenue and expenses and the net for each line. And down in the bottom of those 5 categories, those 5 new lines that we talked about creating, that I've been tracking for the past 2 years. So you'll see those down there as well. So the bottom line here is we're really off last year. Last year, the revolving fund increased by about $42,000 due to all the activity in the department. And this year, 2018, we're in the negative over 27,000, which is probably going to increase another 3,000 or 4,000. Because I know one of the last items that's not in here is payroll for the after-school program that's going to be pushed back into 2018. So there's a substantial gap between the financial performance between 17 and 18. Now the second page basically shows you what the differences are in all those lines, the difference in the revenue and the difference in the expenses and the net. So anything that's green is positive in our favor. Anything that's red is negative. For example, a co-ed softball, approximately $1,400 less in net in 2018 versus 17, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of easy to take a look down and see where we had some shortfalls here. The big numbers are Old Home Day, baseball and softball, basketball, soccer, Hoop Classic, summer day camp, after-school program, and special events. And also, there was an additional $10,000 this year out of those 5 lines on the bottom compared to 2017.
Wait, where's the amount we're carrying right now? The balance of the,
I think it's about, I think it was about 120 coming into this year. I stand corrected, that would be at the end of this year, the end of 2018. The balance would be about 120. Based on these numbers, we started at about 148 at the beginning of 2018. Again, that's going to drop a little bit further. But
the year-by-year comparison for the capital improvement show they're pretty balanced, except when you get to equipment where there's a big swing there, about 16,000. That seems to be the line.
yeah, and most of that line was the van, or about half of it was the van. So you can see, kind of part that played in it. I do have the records of these individual lines that I mentioned that were, that we lost out on compared to last year. Do you want me to go through those quickly or not? I know you got a lot on the schedule.
Does that answer the I guess my next question would always be, I'm looking at finances, but why? Like, is it enrollments down? Is it, like, so I know we bought a ton of goals and stuff this year, just that sport, and I was just working on an update of where we are and what our cost is per kid, referees and all that. So variable costs, fixed costs for everything. So just, that's my first thing, is saying why, and where do we have to shave it for the coming year? Or is it, we know we spent it, it was just something that had to be done, but when we look at actual reoccurring costs, we still have to adjust our fees for this year, which we're talking about doing.
Yeah, and also looking at after-school and summer day camp, those two are big numbers that changed a lot. But I think it was the numbers itself, right, that,
Yeah.
but that's a why too. Why is it so different from last year to this year?
Right. Yeah, enrollment's been different with after-school, certainly. You've also, another thing to account for too is we haven't received any matching money from the grant yet either, for Hartford Brook. So once that's all put in, we should be getting a substantial amount back from that in the match.
It's a match from the
We
town?
basically
or-
fronted all the money for every expense up until this point.
Oh, okay.
So that's not something that's gonna stand.
How much is that?
I've gotta go through that and get an accurate number. I don't wanna just throw something at you.
10, 20, 30?
The whole project's been about 50,000, so.
I think the grant was 20, wasn't it, or 25?
Well, they'll match up to 25,000, so that's what we'll get up to that amount back. That's, once everything's submitted.
Which line is that for expenses here?
Most of that stuff has been coming out of baseball, softball.
And the big stuff in these 2 years has dropped down to the bottom.
Right, the capital improvements and,
Right. Right. A lot of it was pulled out of the actual lines up above.
well, maybe if you go through it quickly and just highlight
Are there,
stuff.
are there any lines that people are particularly interested in getting some of the further detail on the differences?
Well, you wanna start with the baseball, softball, since
Sure.
there's the 7,000 there?
Okay. As you can see, youth baseball and softball, the revenue was up from, in 2018 over 2017. Increase in expenses were things such as the catcher's gear. There was catcher's gear purchased pretty much for every level last year, so that was a huge expenditure that's probably not going to happen again. Electricity was up a couple $100. Field supplies was up substantially, and some of that was probably getting Hartford Brook up to speed. Payroll was up about $1,200 over the year before. A line that I had here for plaques and medals went from $180 to almost $450. Porta potties was up about $300. Security monitoring was up significantly, and probably the addition of Hartford Brook again. Umpire fees were up about $1,300 this past year. There was a lot of money spent for jerseys in 2018. But overall, the uniforms and the linen was only about $300 more. So,
So were there any items on the bottom, the capital square on the bottom for equipment that was part of baseball? So the 22,787 is exclusive of the 18,741 then?
18,741.
That's the equipment on the bottom in the square?
Oh, yeah, well, that's, a lot of that would be baseball and softball, but it includes all the different,
Fence and the,
yeah, hydro seating and stuff,
Yeah,
yeah, the
okay.
dugout slabs, that sort of stuff, yes. It's down below there. So, some of those expenses aren't gonna repeat themselves. Others are just up, and they're probably gonna continue to climb.
So Dwight, quick question for you. If you go to youth soccer, it's down 4. Does that include goals or is that without goals? And can I get a copy of that just to tie up to our books that we're working on for
Sure.
looking at tuition for next year?
Yeah.
Is that, just quick division on that, 4,000 by
Yeah,
150 kids is $26 a kid or so, which is a big jump in tuition. So just trying to figure out, are we shaving costs or are we increasing our combo?
The big equipment expenditures did go down into equipment. You spent a lot of money on goals this year, which obviously you needed to do. So that was down below. what changed? Let's see, for soccer, well, yeah, $1,100 positive on the revenue side. The expenses, there was a coaching clinic this year for about $800 that was not part of 17. Field supplies, again, they went from about 500 to over 1,000. Payroll actually dropped for some reason. It must have been all the work you did, Jeff. I don't know. Soccer balls, it was $3,400 compared to $1,200 last year. So that was a big number that more than likely won't repeat itself, I assume. Uniforms, linen, that sort of stuff, that was up about $1,400 over last year. So a lot of money was spent on uniforms this year.
Uniforms is up?
Yeah.
It's interesting, because we had less kids this year than last year. So I have to look at that. That would be, can I get my hands on some of that stuff?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can
Well, I
have
don't
it.
need it right now, but.
You can send it down.
I can use that.
Yeah, let's see, how about our two heavy hitters? Summer day camp. Obviously about $5,000 difference in revenue there. We were down. Expenses were up another $1,000 in equipment. Field trip costs were down slightly. Payroll was up. This is a big line here on summer day camp. Up about $9,000 over the previous year, payroll. Student transportation was up $1,600 over the previous year. Supplies are up quite a bit, about $900. And T-shirts, there's another $1,000 there. Obviously, the summer day camp and the after-school program are the things that really pay our bills. So this obviously, what I just went through is just a quick recap. It might make sense for these two lines in particular to really be looked at completely to see what's going on. I do have a question on summer day camp and after school. Those are the two big tuition programs. Are people paying strictly by check and by credit card for those programs, or is there cash involved?
They sometimes pay with cash. Yeah, they'll drop off whatever to Deb, and she'll put it in as a part of the regular deposit.
Okay. Do we have any kind of cash control policies there to enable us to audit ourselves, as far as how many kids are in the building and how much money is being paid for?
She usually records everything that she takes in a book, and then she conducts a weekly deposit based on whatever that comes in, but beyond that, not really.
Wait, is this something that we should have, just put onto the subcommittees?
There is, that's what I was just gonna say,
Put the numbers
there is.
down and have all the subcommittees come back with here's the whys.
Yeah,
What
'cause
could be done?
Tom Dubois is working on the after-school, right?
Right.
With-
Yep.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea to pass the stuff down to them.
Yeah.
Dwight, I think you make some great points there, though, because that's an important place where we're earning the revenue, and if you buy a fence and you pay for a fence, the fence is gonna last some number of years, but if you start losing revenue for whatever reason, and you start, that offset is somewhat concerning, because it is I hate to use the expression, the cash cow that seems to drive the rest of everything we do.
Well, in looking at the after-school program, you can see that the expenses were, within $3,000, and most of that was payroll. So some of that could have been some increase in salaries, but, the big nut there is the revenue.
Could it be the enrollments were down, too, because we didn't have the staff to
That's what I was
accommodate?
wondering, right, to begin the year, but not the summer camp, though.
But didn't we do a retroactive payroll increase back to June, which would have affected
Yeah, the
everyone
salary.
getting paid, right? So that would be the potential jump in salary.
But between the two, the decline in enrollment to begin with, and, yeah.
Right, yeah.
But I think Jeff's point of trying to get these to the committees would be good, and they may come back and respond to the next meeting.
Sure.
This is great, Dwight, thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
That's good.
Yeah, no problem.
And I believe too, like, it's sort of as a standing item, that this is just where we review it quickly every month and we can see. We don't have to belabor it every time, but we can say, hey, it's 120, now it's 125, we're moving in a good direction. Or if it drops, precipitously, we can say, oh, we gotta look at it a little bit more closely.
Right.
Tighten our belts, perhaps.
Now, one more thing on financials, the work that's going to be done in Pete's office to get us moving forward so we can have a little better accounting for these things that we've talked about many times. He's waiting for a gal that is, I believe she's an employee of the town, perhaps a part-time employee. I don't know if you guys know that gal.
I don't know exactly her capacity, but she's gonna have her hand in breaking down one of the lines. I think that's what you're
Right.
alluding to.
So that has not happened yet. That is going to happen hopefully sometime this month. So, that's, I don't know what impact that's gonna have on you guys. I'm sure Pete will continue to pay bills and stuff, but at some point, everything is probably gonna get rolled into that new setup. But just to let you know, it hasn't happened yet, and I'm still working on it. I know the gal that does that sort of stuff, she's had some health issues. She's been in and out of the office, so hopefully she's all better now and can get going on that with Pete. Thanks, that's all I have.
Anybody have any more questions for Dwight? Thank you for doing that. Joe Stone Scholarship Fund. I think we're,
Well, as you probably saw in an email, the coffee house has offered to support this in the fall event in 2020. So the next three events, the spring and the fall in 19 are taken, and the spring in 20 is taken. So the earliest availability is fall of 2020, and they said they'd be happy to do that for us again. So the question then, I think, is, what should we do? What do we need to do as a commission to make sure that Good Sport Fund is funded every year? So we'll have to do something to raise some money to put into that. Last year we spent $1,500 out of it. Typically we spent $1,000.
I was gonna ask, how much do we spend every year? It's about $1,000.
usually 500, so 1,000.
Who do they go to? Like, what
High
is, high school?
Graduating high school
school
seniors.
seniors.
Graduating high schools.
That show, not necessarily sports, but community involvement and stuff, so.
So Jeff, maybe you can help me with the various funding mechanisms that have happened in the past. We've had Coffee House maybe 2 times.
Yeah, Coffee House twice. We did a Hall of Fame, banquet, to raise money for that.
Ernie just sent me an email today, and he was talking about the Joe Stone Fund, and he, on his way out, he said parting thought was maybe we could do that again. That was a Deerfield, what was it, a Recreation Hall of Fame or the Sports Hall of Fame?
Sports Alumni Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I thought it was recreation-based, because we honored a lot of, past coaches and
Yeah.
athletes in the recreation program.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the gal that ran, Joyce Pelletier, that ran baseball for years
Baseball,
here in
yeah.
town, was one of the recipients, and Doug Levitt and Teddy McDonald,
Right.
they started basketball here in town, so they were recognized there. So that was like an award ceremony. There was dinner involved too, right?
Yeah, it wasn't sort of a lunchtime thing or late,
I think it was in the evening.
too long ago
It
for me
was
to
dinner,
like.
though, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're probably right.
But it was a fundraiser, I can't,
It's always the same time of day inside of there.
yeah.
We did a 50/50 at the Old Home Day. Could we look to do that more often, to the Winter Carnival as well, or even in the Hoops Classics to just,
Hoops
wherever.
Classic might be a great spot to do 50/50.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
And knowing too that it's going for charity, that people would be,
Right.
the specific charity, that would be good.
We also had a speaker come in, I want to say Bert and I, but
Oh, yeah, it was that comedian from
comedian
Maine,
from
right?
Maine, right?
That's right.
Oh, was it along with Rebecca Rule? Was it,
Yeah, she opened for him, and he,
right,
Yeah.
okay.
I can't think of his name, but,
And didn't we do proceeds from the ice cream social at
Social.
Old Home Day?
Yeah.
So I don't know what came out of that, what the final number was.
I can't recall it, but that money did in fact go into the fund.
Okay.
Yeah, along with the 50/50.
and then
In
the
the auction.
auction too, right?
Now, another possibility, something that I believe the commission has done in the past is held a dance, right? Didn't we do a dance? I'm not sure if we did one for the Joe Stone Fund, but done that in the past
Dance,
at
I
the
don't
Legion
Yeah, I don't
as
remember.
a fundraiser.
I don't know if it was specific to Joe Stone, though.
Right.
What about, you said the Legion, what about, what do you call it, the beanbags?
Cornhole?
Cornhole tournament
Cornhole tournament,
Yeah.
yeah.
for it,
Sure.
beanbags, cornhole. But
That's something that usually generates a lot of attention in town.
That would be a nice, like, cabin fever thing to do over the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea, Jeff.
But doesn't the Legion do a cornhole
They have
Have
a
a
league.
league, so we could do
But-
something that
Do
would
it like on a
interfere.
Saturday or something,
Yeah.
and have it be a fundraiser.
What's the process been though for the award? Whatever's in the account is divided by the awardees?
Well, it's generally, we get the applications and we pick two,
So there's $1,200, you go 6 and 6, or?
500. No, we just do 500.
And then the
This
balance
past
stays
year,
in
we
as
had
we-
3 applicants, and they were all really good, and we said, let's give 3, but in general, we just do the 2.
Have you ever fallen below the 2?
No.
So we've never had to supplement it or subsidize it?
No. No, and I think there's enough in there for this year. Is it like $1,200 or something?
I believe that's correct, yep.
But it might be good to look at maybe a Hall of Fame or some kind of larger event for next, maybe next February or March.
Right.
Something to keep in mind to do. Beer tasting.
Isn't this a dry town?
No, not anymore. Keno's coming.
What'd you say?
Nothing. All right, so I guess we need to,
So you're saying it?
so we know we have Coffee House for sure in 2020, but we need to pick something in between. But I think Nate's idea, the 50/50 at the Hoop Classic would be good.
I think,
Yeah.
how about like a March cornhole tournament?
Yep.
March Madness cornhole tournament or something?
Yeah.
Or that, the games are on Saturday weekends.
Oh,
Like a pool.
I was hoping you weren't gonna say that, Katie. I don't know.
You mean for,
We'd have to think of how we structure it, like Texas Hold'em.
And if it's, yeah, and if it's a legit way to raise money.
No, I know, but you'd have to think, so Texas Hold'em you can do because it's not gambling, right? You're playing for chips and then there's a prize for the winner, so you'd have to set it up so that it's not a gambling situation.
if you do it as a tournament,
No, but I think you could, so I think you could, because we're not winning.
it's
a
not
pri-
gambling.
It's a
You-
prize.
You enter, you pay to play, and then the pot is split.
I think you could do it. I think you could do it.
trouble.
No, because
Would have to do some research on
it's
that
no,
one.
but it's no different than the charity cornhole tournaments where you pay $20 to play and you take 50% of the pot home. You're paying $20 to play and you're taking 20% of the pot home.
Well, that's like Super Bowl where
Yeah, so there we go. We got March Madness basketball brackets and we'll do a cornhole tournament, $20 to enter.
So the March Madness cornhole's the same thing.
No, we can do both.
So what's the basketball one?
That's the March Madness and then we'll do cornhole on top of it. That's just an extra fundraiser.
Thanks, Katie.
was this a subcommittee?
Yeah.
It must have been included in one of your committees.
It is a subcommittee.
Had a list.
Yeah, I did too.
Who wasn't here that day? I think we put him on it.
Probably Brian, it was you.
No, I was here that day.
All right, well, we got stuff to go through, so,
And we got a beer fest. You wanted that right there.
we can come back on the Joe Stone. We're good for now, but we got ideas out there, so. All right, so that kind of follows up with the subcommittee description and assignments. My list. You want to chime in on that, or what were you thinking?
Amy had the final product for that one.
Yeah, that's in an email somewhere, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
no,
can, if you guys want to skip that, I can go print it. Up to you.
Or do you want to? Do we
There
want?
there were very minor tweaks, I think, to the whole thing, and it was generally the same concept, so. And I think it had a list of what we were looking for subcommittees at the bottom. So, I was hoping we could get those filled, but we don't have everybody here tonight, so.
I think everyone that's here is already doing one.
Pretty much, you want me to run and go, Frank? I can do that.
I don't know, do we need to tonight? I mean, we do
Not
have other
necessarily.
stuff, and
We
we're,
could wait for it.
let's do it the next
I know
meeting.
some of the subcommittees don't have any attention right now, and some of them do, so.
Yeah,
February?
yeah.
Because I thought we did that on the org chart that night. I can go look at my,
Yeah, but there's
that,
still a couple that need.
We get the,
there
we get the
was.
next winter carnival coming, they're managed by crisis, right, whatever's next, we'll just make sure we're covered.
Yeah,
sorry,
Yeah.
Tom was away, he was fishing.
I think we can table the subcommittee discussion for, till the next meeting.
All right.
Baseball, softball registration update?
I'm gonna yield to Kevin on that one. All right, so I passed out the updated flyers for this spring season that I hope reflect all the changes and updates in regards to registration fees and discounts that was talked about at the December meeting that I was absent at. So everything and all the information is here. We are looking to get this launched soon. Our goal was to have it out now, but as Dwight mentioned, the lady that updates the lines for our fund hasn't had a chance to update that yet, and then we have to submit those new lines to Rec Desk, so the Rec Desk can update that. We were trying to make this a clean enter financially into the next 2019, if that makes sense. So that way, all the money, because baseball and softball has always been one line item in the revolving fund, and now, as far as I understand, is being split. So this way, we can create the softball line, and then all the funds from softball can be going right into the softball line when we launch our registration. Otherwise, we would have to work with Pete, I guess, in trying to do research into how much money was paid for softball and trying to do a transfer. And I don't know if that would be more complicated than just waiting a few extra days for it to be finalized. But those are the prices there. And we're getting ready to launch that as soon as we can. So we're hoping next week, those lines will be broken down, and if not, we'll probably just go ahead so that everybody still has the 3-month window to get signed up. That's kind of what we were trying to achieve this year over last year, is giving them a much larger window to register and not have it be such a problem with late registrants, so.
I agree with that. I think that if they haven't got things together,
Yeah.
should just go forward with it at that time, yeah.
Anything else? Just something to point out on the flyer, actually, that I'm working with Cindy, locking up the date for our player evaluation for baseball. The gym is open, from what she told me, on the 16th, just trying to secure a time slot that we want to hold our evaluations, our in-town evaluations, because the older age levels, age 10 and 11, they'll be doing a league-wide evaluation through the through Little League in Candia. So that's the only other thing that would be updated on the baseball side.
is updating the time on the flyer.
Are 12-year-olds allowed to play? Well,
Well,
this is not made.
No, I think 12 is,
12's major leagues.
Majors.
yeah, 12-year-olds would be majors, I think.
Would they be part of that Lamprey River?
11 and 12s.
Yeah, that might be right, that might be a good catch.
Oh,
there,
yeah, okay,
Terry.
11, right, it's 11 and 12, yeah, because
Yeah.
12's the way.
Yeah, they switched to a scale,
Yeah,
or they like to
Yep.
see the players placed unless there are
Yep.
extenuating circumstances.
a good catch, Terry, thank you.
Has anyone, like, with basketball this year, a lot of the boys ended up going to the school team. The older kids, the 6, it's the 6, 7, and 8, or the 5 and stuff, a lot of the 6th graders went to the school team. Is that a situation that may happen again in baseball? Because there's a kind of a large class of those kids moving together.
Really depends on what they plan on offering, I guess. I'm
Yeah,
not sure, because I know that basketball has an A and a B team, I believe, for the boys and the girls.
Yeah.
So if they were to offer something else, then that could impact us, but.
yeah, I'd imagine that if we felt an impact, where we would feel that would be Babe Ruth, not in Little League.
Right, yeah, it's true.
Okay. So Babe Ruth is not on here then?
Not our Babe Ruth baseball, so, we gotta working with a guy to find out if there's any, increase in fees for that, cause that was a different fee altogether. I think that was 120 last year,
Yeah, a separate
that was a separate fee.
entity from Little League.
Yeah,
Because this is up to 12 years old, right?
Correct.
Babe Ruth is 13.
So that would cover up to 6th grade, right?
the,
11 and 12.
Yeah.
So that would be the 6th graders. If they opened up a team, you'd get hit with your 6th graders making the school team.
If they open it up to 6th graders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know they didn't have a lot of players last year, so they might be looking for more. And Dwight, I'm sure you know that that's a big change there, right, from the small diamond to the big diamond, that,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Sure
huge.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's something to think about as you start getting, enrollments, applications.
I had a quick question, since you're on baseball here. Lamprey River put together a Facebook page this year, right?
I think they're working on it, they haven't done it, because I know with baseball, that is one of the board positions that is still open. This,
Oh, I thought I saw a post.
I mean, maybe, I'm sure John, probably is making, if there is one, he's maybe making posts. Maybe he's assuming the responsibilities of that board position.
Oh, I see,
But I
okay.
do know that from the last meeting, that was one that wasn't filled.
Right. Just the comment I wanted to make on that is, once that thing is up and running, can we make sure that everybody that's, a participant in the program last year has this, gets the link and knows about it? 'Cause that could be pretty helpful. Thanks.
Anything else on baseball, softball? Winter Carnival update. Snow, where's the snow?
Yeah, it's gotta be coming. Gotta be out there somewhere. Sorry.
Okay, so Winter Carnival, okay, as was discussed at the last meeting in December, we're looking to move it up and have it in January. The date that we're looking at is Sunday, January 20th, with an inclement weather date of Monday, January 21st. So, if we have a nor'easter coming through and it's really unsafe, while we want all the snow, while it's unsafe to travel and be outside, we have a date that we can move it to because it's a long weekend and the kids have the day off from school. So that way we can hopefully have the kids there and hopefully parents will be able to bring their kids. That's the only catch if the parents have to work, I'm working with one of our staff in, determining the activities for the inside of the Winter Carnival. I know last year, we had it for what it was. Jeff, I think you said it best, for what it was, we had a pretty good turnout. for
Yes.
being completely indoors, no
Indoors.
outdoor activities except for the pony rides.
The mud carnival, yeah.
I spoke with Wolf Creek Stables today, they are gonna come back, so we'll have the pony rides again for an outside activity. We're planning for all the outdoor activities that we did last year. You know, we're looking at just over 2 weeks away and not much snow. So we thought, hey, let's move it earlier, because we seemed to have snow in January last year and none in February. And well, look what's happening. You know, Mother Nature just doesn't seem to like this event, and we're just gonna make best of what we can do. So, right now, we've got the pony rides, we're gonna plan everything outside as if there's snow. We're trying to change some of the activities that we had indoors, kind of revamp them and put new twists on some of the activities, so that way it's not walking into the same thing. So those families that did go last year, they won't be like, oh, well, we did it last year, it's gonna be the same stuff. We're hopefully gonna add some new fun arts and crafts, some new events. We tried the chili cook-off last year. We only had one crock pot of chili show up. And so we're trying something else, a winter-themed cake decoration contest. So encouraging families to bake a cake at home and bring it in all decorated and, you know, the theme of winter, and it'll get voted on. Maybe that might be more interesting, I don't know. And then just see some of the other activities right there. You know, the pie eating and root beer float contest seemed to be pretty fun events last year. And then we had a couple other ones in there. We unfortunately don't have the library this year. They're closed and gonna be away for the weekend, the long weekend. But we did hear back from them that the story time and cookies and hot cocoa was pretty popular over at the library. So we're trying to shift that over, or looking to shift that to the town hall and do that from 11:30 to noon before we get rolling with all the carnival stuff, so that way we can still keep that a part of the event. We thought that was pretty important, that if the library said that it was fairly popular and had a good turnout, we want to keep it, so.
Just wondering if we don't get any snow and the ice stays good, do we wanna somehow make a note that we might have ice skating available at Freezes Pond?
Oh, yeah.
Like from, instead of your snow maze snowshoe or winter carnival games or something, maybe add, you know, maybe have skating available at,
Is that something that happens every year if the ice is frozen, is ice skating over there?
never had it before.
Never had it. I mean, that's something that we could definitely add, I mean, I could.
Yeah, I'd have to see how it all works out, you know, whether it, you know, I think access from the school parking lot down to Freezes is pretty good. And maybe we could, you know, rope off an area that we could say is, or cone off an area or something, and maybe have a bonfire down there, or,
I wouldn't suggest on top of the ice. Would it melt and go right through the ice?
haven't you ever had a bonfire on the ice?
No, I haven't.
It should be about, I was gonna say, by then it should be a good foot thick, right?
Actually, it's against the law now, you can't have fires on water like that, because but it may be something to think about. I don't know how we would do it, it may just say,
Jeff, do we have water over across the road? Do you have like spigots? I mean, we could just, I mean,
The
growing up, we just
bicentennial?
we just put down clear tarp that you pick up at Home Depot, like 3 mil, and just, we flooded it. I mean, that's how we did our side
Right.
yard growing up. We just create,
Maybe
plan ahead and just say, we're gonna make a little skating rink over there.
You'd have to have boards and stuff too.
yeah,
It's gotta be level.
It'd have to be, yeah.
it's a lot more than just putting plastic
It's
down.
all gonna go.
It's gotta be close enough, and then you fill it with water.
No,
And
you're
if we have
saying
a
the
little
water-
bit of
the water
snow, you
won't-
use the
yeah.
snow as your boards, and
In the land of D'Agostino.
Jeff signed up.
Yeah,
it
that's
worked
kind of a
growing
big
up.
project to think about the skating, it almost have to be started like now.
Yeah, I know, it is
Area.
throwing it out there, yeah.
Yeah,
The thing with Freezer's Pond, what I've seen is when it snows, lots of snowmobile traffic over there, so it chews it all up and it makes it so you can't plow
Well, if it
out.
snows, we're no good. We can't do it. If it
Well, you
doesn't,
could plow it, or even run
Snow blower.
a snow blower pretty easily.
Snow blower, an ice auger, and a pump, and just reflood it. That's how we did the ponds.
yeah, but Amy's right, I mean, what are we offering? Are we,
Yeah, somebody would sort of need to take charge of that now
yeah,
and be planning, to have an ice rink under construction starting now.
You have to agree, you have to reserve the space and then kind
Yeah.
of protect it and keep developing and building it
Right.
and keep
That's
people
what I was
off of
thinking
it.
on high ground, then you wouldn't have to worry about snowmobiles. Is there any place over there that's semi-flat? Like the place we played cornhole, it kind of flooded already, right?
well, they did, was it 2 years ago that,
Oh, yeah, somebody else,
Wendy, wasn't it Wendy did a ice rink
yeah, I think so.
right near the gazebo?
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it was the size of this room, maybe, half the size of this room.
Mm.
And then it warmed up, so it kind of went down, but it's a lot of work. That's why I'm thinking if the ice is still good on freezes, then,
Yeah.
I mean, we could just
If
say
you don't have
it's,
snow, that's the best ice
Right.
conditions, you just need cold.
maybe that's it. In place of snow, you can skate it. And we're not really doing anything, but it's something to go out and do for an hour or so and then come back.
Skating TBD,
Yeah, maybe that's,
yeah.
You could even have a little hockey, you have most of the area, you could have a little hockey game in an area, maybe have some races or something like that. and-
I think you're better off just having public skate. You start introducing sticks and pucks and people get a little crazy.
That's true.
I think.
Jeff's been there before. You've been there.
Yeah. So I think Amy's point is to be determined, and just as a possibility, so.
Would we need to check in with somebody like Matt Fisher on the thickness of the ice and making sure that we're good to go?
Yeah. And it could be, if it stays like this and we just need to put some water on it, maybe he could run down and at least put a little topping on what's there now. So, it'd be worth talking to him. So what are you gonna need for help on Winter Carnival Day?
I know last year, I believe it was Amy, Katie, and Julie, they helped out in the concessions stand, which was awesome. I know you were doing photos during the day, right? Because I don't think Melissa was around that day.
Right.
Because I know Nick, he was spending the day at DCS, because we had basketball games, so that's another advantage of moving it off of a Saturday, is, we'll both be available. We have a few of our staff that will be available to kind of hopefully oversee some of the carnival-style games that will be going on inside. Because I know last year it was sort of a free-for-all, just because there weren't enough people to be kind of stationed.
Right.
And it was what it was, families still had fun with their kids, and, they had a hot dog or something, and, from the concession stand, and some people bought Winter Carnival shirts, but, we're trying to maybe try to get it to a little bit more structured by having a few of our staff there, to overseeing different things, and maybe kind of operate it more true carnival style. That's if we can get enough people, where, some of the games, if the kids, or the adults even, if they, I don't know, knock down all the pins, you get tickets and you can go claim them for a small prize or a food item at the concession stand, like a bag of popcorn or a drink or something like that, so.
Maybe you could add down somewhere on here that there'll be a 50-50 raffle for, proceeds going to the Joe Stone Scholarship.
Add a 50-50 if you want.
I think we should start promoting that more at these events and taking advantage of it.
Would you need to be present to win? That'd be my next question, or would you just put your name and number on
Name
the
and
back?
number, name and phone number, yeah.
When would you announce the winner, like, what part of the event, near the end?
Yeah, I guess we could draw it, maybe just before the indoor activities end, and or maybe right before the bonfire is about to start, so right around maybe 3
3
o'clock or
o'clock,
so.
I'd say right before the
Yeah,
bonfire.
because at 3 o'clock, 3:30, that town hall is gonna be empty, and
Right.
anybody that's still left is gonna be out at the bonfire, even though I think it was like 4 people last year. Yeah, I think it was, yeah. I think a lot of people came earlier in the day, they had their fix of Winter Carnival for what it was. There weren't a lot of outdoor activities. You did your indoor activities for
rain
about a
too?
half an hour to an hour max, and they went home.
Sprinkler. It wasn't very good weather.
No, no. But we got 4.5 inches of snow after it was all done.
That's right.
So,
That's when the snow started.
yep.
So everybody watch out, January 21st, snow will start. Okay, this is good. Anything else, Kathy, on it?
I don't think so. Anybody else has other questions?
Do we need donations for the bonfire as far as,
Oh, that's
and
a-
how do you put that out there? Like,
That's a good
Christmas
point.
trees, pallets?
I believe Matt Fisher, in the email to us, he was thinking that maybe people could bring their Christmas trees down to the bonfire.
Do we have a place for that right now? Can people drop them off now?
I
Because
think
a lot of people are getting rid of them now, so.
Yeah, yeah, I can check with Matt on that.
Just collect them back by the trailer.
put them over by the
Behind the
sand
thing.
pile by the
Yeah,
gazebo.
back where they store their
Yeah.
trailer back by the wall.
Right,
Check with highway department though, to make sure we're not in the way of,
we'll keep it on the gazebo side, not in the parking lot side. Yeah.
Guys, I don't want to be a bummer, but I just checked the long-range forecast. We have ice predicted on the 17th, and there's no other snow predicted between now and
Yeah,
then.
that's a long ways away. I just heard tonight, Tuesday
Snow-
night.
Way to
Snow
be a
tomorrow
Debbie
morning.
Downer there, Jeff.
Can you tell me what's like?
Tonight,
Yeah,
tonight
thanks,
the snow.
Jeff.
Tonight the snow.
Thanks,
Make your
Jeff.
snowballs for the snowball throwing
Yeah.
contest at Winter Carnival. Put them in your
Put 'em in your freezer.
and then bring them out.
All right, Hoop Classic, keep going here.
Wanna take that one too? You're on a roll.
It makes no difference. Okay, so we've updated our flyer for the Hoop Classic.
Probably not.
Everything he needs is in that. All right, so we are looking to start on March 23rd, run through April 12th, if needed. Last year, we didn't run to the last date that we put on the flyer. It's really those, last 4 or 5 days are there in case of weather. And our biggest fear is if we get hit with a snowstorm on a Saturday and/or a Sunday, when, you play 13 games in one day, how that's gonna push everything back. So that's why those extra days are there. So we have the cost of $200 per team, that stayed the same from last year. We added to the flyer that space is limited to the first 48 teams. We had 46 teams last year. So we are very confident that we can get the entire tournament in that amount of time if we're at 48 teams. I guess the biggest question that came up the last time we talked about this is what are our plans with our Deerfield teams in terms of the volunteerism versus payment?
right?
Which is, we want to make sure that we have that all squared away, so that way we can provide that information when we launch. One of the things that we don't want to do is say that they're volunteering and then the tournament starts and they don't, because then it's going to be hard to track down the money afterwards if we don't have a plan in place.
So what if we had those teams pay up front, and if they have their volunteers show up, we can reimburse the team? I don't know how that would work.
I mean, that's a good point. We thought about that. The question then would be, do we reimburse on an individual player basis, or is it per the team? Because I'm afraid that, you could have a team of, say, 10 kids, 5 parents do all the hours, but then do the other families who didn't volunteer, should they get their money back?
I think as long as the team understands the number of hours
Right.
required by the team, however they want to work that out within
Can't hear you
their
very
team, is
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, it's a team
Yeah.
Per team, not per individual, so.
No, I think what we'd probably do is take a look at it and do like a per game, probably by game instead of by hour. That'd probably be the easiest way to go about it, you know, figure out how many Deerfield teams we have that enter the tournament, look at the number of games that it takes to play the entire tournament, and then, I don't know, maybe take a look at dividing that by a reasonable number, thinking that we could probably maybe fill some of it with our staff, but primarily filling it with the parents of our Deerfield teams.
Right.
And then go from there. And then as we're getting into it, if deeper in the tournament, you know, if our Deerfield teams are playing in the championships or whatever, and the parents really don't want to be at the gate or whatever, they just want to watch the game, you know, maybe we could work something out at that point. But I think having that plan in place is key.
What's your take on it, Nate, with basketball?
My only reservation of the teams paying up front is each team's gonna have a different amount of that they'll have to pay per family. Because I have 8 girls on my team. Jeff Kelly has 9. Jeff has 8 on his team. I think one of the boys, 3, 4th grade, has 10, or each one of them have 10 or 11. So then you're gonna hear, oh, well, we paid $20, where these guys are paying $30 and $40. I mean, I don't know. As far as, I think we should be putting it on the coaches and making sure that they are getting emails out to their parents every week if they have to. Here's a reminder. That's what I did last year, and my team was rather successful as far as helping out. I think it makes sense to make the coaches responsible for communicating it to their teams. It gets it off of you guys, but they just have to be persistent on a weekly basis if they have to.
So what are we asking? So, I mean, we have practice tonight, actually, so is it me, I'm going to the parents saying, look, there's a tournament, it's a $200 tournament, there's 8 players, it's $25 a head if we pay cash, or we could volunteer, which means we have to cover, each family covers 2 to 3 games, which would wipe out the cost of that. So if we had a 9 o'clock game, we could cover the game before or after.
I think you should do it by email, not just talk, like,
But just to get it out there.
Start,
to say,
yeah.
Do they have the option, you're not interested in the tournament either? What if parents said, I don't want to deal with it?
then their child
So,
doesn't play.
so we just don't sign the team up? Well, we don't have enough kids. We only need kids. So that's what I'm just asking is like, if parents say, no, we don't want to deal with it, does that could backfire, then all volunteers are gone?
That's it too, because you won't get full support or equal support from every team.
Right.
It's not gonna happen.
So
And
it's saying, we're asking parents, do you guys want to be in it? Who's interested? How many, make sure we have enough to field the team if they have to have a commitment on the back end.
Well, last year we had a sign-up sheet.
we did, and we
And-
didn't even come close to filling it.
No, but we
Right.
could do that again, and if they have to sign up by, I mean, when does our regular season end?
February.
Well, first, it ends the Saturday before the Super Bowl, and then the jamborees are still up in the air to be determined on either the 9th and/or the 16th of February, which would be a week before registration of Hoop Classic ends.
So we have to have commitment by every parent by the end of regular season, or their child is not eligible to play. If we can't fill the team, that team's open up to another town, unfortunately.
Could probably do that.
I'm pretty
make that
certain
work.
I can get my whole team covered.
What's the cutoff date for
The
February?
22nd, so the end of our season would be the week prior to the end of the registration for Hoop Classic. So that would still allow 1 week past the end of the regular season to tie up any loose ends, if we did want to go down.
And again, I'm willing to be almost every night. After I get out of work at 5, but after work, I'm pretty much.
Well, why don't we put a deadline at the end of the
Yeah, so-
month? I just looked up the game. Our last game's the 2nd of February. If we just say that the DFL teams have to be committed by the end of January.
And
Committed to the
Gives you a month
tournament,
to fill the spot.
the tournament, and whether you're paying or whether you're volunteering, or just,
Or if your kid's participating, and then if you're paying and volunteering.
but do we want to do we want to give them a choice? Are we going to say Deerfield teams have to volunteer?
That's what it's been every other year. I know not all parents step up, but
Right. Well, and then it falls on the coaches to make sure they cover the time.
You try the opposite, you could say you have to pay, and then when they say we don't wanna pay, what can we do to not pay? Well, then,
What could you just say, it's voluntary, we gotta cover 3 games, but you have the option to buy out on it, and just say it's $30 to buy out, $10
Who
a
does
game.
it after that?
Yeah.
What?
Who does
Who
the
does
work?
it after? Who does it when they buy out? Who covers this?
Well,
So
it
if it did-
depends on how many hours you're talking. If it's $30 for 5 shifts, then no, I can't hire a staff member for that.
That's
But if it's
three
$30
shifts.
for 2 shifts, you can hire, give the money to hire staff, you can have staff.
It's just thinking that you have like high school kids, right? See if.
We had a considerable amount of help from our after-school
So,
staff
oh,
last
so
year,
what's
but yeah,
what's the
that was lucky, yeah.
what's the fully loaded cost for them?
Fully loaded cost.
Like hourly rate, it's like fully loaded taxes and everything in.
I'd have to look into that.
If they make an average of, the low pay is $10 an hour.
So let's round it up to 15 with taxes. I know it's not there, but,
Right.
so if we said to every family to do 2 shifts, it's $30, right? And just say, look, as before, we have this, but some parents that didn't want to volunteer, you don't have to, but, you can buy out, then that'll cover the cost of us hiring someone to fill that position.
How many Deerfield teams have played in the past?
Last year, I'm trying to think.
we had
Four?
You had
5, 6 boys, 5, 6 girls, 3, 4 boys. We had 4.
Yeah, one at every level, and I would,
Yeah. Oh, we had,
Was it 2, 3, 4s?
no, because not girls, maybe boys.
Because we had a 7, 8 boys last year too. Never mind.
I mean, at most, I would imagine we would have is 6 teams this year. And that's if every team, participates.
What if we do a discounted price on, instead of, say a Deerfield team's $100 to enter, but you're responsible to cover, each team covers 5 games? Or something like that. I don't know what the numbers would be, but you could say $100 discount, but we have to volunteer for so many games. And then we're collecting some money, but we're also getting some volunteerism back.
I mean, to Nate's point, I see what he's talking about, where the teams are all different sizes,
Yeah.
the cost per family would be different. I'm wondering if it would be maybe better to assign a price per player, whether it's $10 per player on a team or something like that, or $15 per player, and then that would cover that family's, if we're talking discount, or now we're recouping some money if we do have to hire a staff. So that way it's even across all the families, within the town.
That's actually not a bad idea.
did you use mostly staff last year?
There's a lot of staff.
We had a lot of staff help. We had,
Liam was huge for about one entire week.
yeah, we
But
had Phil,
you paid them, right?
Cody, Laura, yeah.
So you still, according to these numbers, you still netted 3,000 over the course of the tournament, and you paid 13,474 for all the expenses, including that labor. Are the concessions being covered by the 8th graders still? Why not, at a discount rate, $5 a shift or something, pay them to show up and do some of the other work that needs to be done? And then adjust your entry fee to everybody to pay the price.
Why not get volunteers?
Well, because, well, that's the thing, is the challenge, if you can get the volunteers, but the history, the recent history is that people aren't doing that. So that's your reality. They're not showing up, somebody has to cover their shift, so Nate's gonna cover 12 hours on a Saturday because somebody's gonna do it. If you can find someone that wants to do it and you have the funding to do it, match the two and you're moving forward. Because you don't even have to give them necessarily cash in hand, you could give it to the school or whatever. The kids going to New York have to pay whatever, you have to pay like $700 or whatever for the event, or you work and do different shifts and different things along the way to reduce that amount that you have to pay. So they're not necessarily looking they're looking for money to get done what they wanna do. They're not looking to fill shifts of work that someone needs to attend to. So you got a need and you got an ability. So that means that if you make this instead of $200 a team, it's $210 a team, or whatever you have to do to make the math, to make that little bit of extra. You'll have happy kids, you'll have good coverage, you'll have parents and coaches that can go in and watch other games and see other things that are happening and not be worried about standing in the lobby perhaps.
But, 8th graders volunteer?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're the ones that are gonna be standing on the other side, you know, with the concessions, making the hot dogs and the popcorn and all that, right, in the thing, so there'd be some more of them available. You know, part of the thing is opportunities for the 8th graders to work events. We did the trunk or treat thing, and we had some folks over there in the corner, but there were only so many people that can work that event, so you sign up for the event, that one's full, they gotta go try to find something else.
Do we know how many games we're gonna be putting on throughout this whole thing? Because that will tell us how many spots, and then we can do the math on how many we need. Because we broke it down today, and it seems like we're gonna have a minimum of 5 positions for each game that we need to fill, if it's gonna run smoothly. Now, he and I can obviously fill in and take on more as we need to, but ideally for a smooth tournament to happen,
So-
we need a door person, we need a scoreboard operator.
I think we need 2 for the door.
Right, well, minimum.
Yeah.
We found that it was very slow at the door, let's be honest, but for the
Yeah.
sake of keeping track of money, I think 2 is ideal.
Yeah.
Door, scoreboard, scorebook, public address is its own thing. And then we coupled halftime lights, music, and in-game photos all as one, because those are kind of sporadic, tasks. So,
The thing is, if you do the door, it's not like you can't watch the game,
right.
because you're taking the money before the game starts. You stand there watching it, well, people come and go, and you're just checking, but when
And
I've
they
done
can-
it, I've watched every game. I haven't,
So,
Yeah,
well,
they don't
that's-
have to work the game that their children's playing.
No.
I mean, if it was me, I would work 2 games prior, then watch.
right.
Right.
Come in an hour early and watch the first game, and then you watch your own.
Right.
So,
Are we looking at probably 2 shifts per night? Like 2 door shifts per person? Because weeknights is only 4 games, right?
Well, we had some people that would sign up for blocks of time, like, up to 4 or 5 hours at a time, which is nice. I mean,
Yeah.
right. You
That's
sign
really
up for an
nice.
evening, yeah.
Because people don't wanna jump in and fill in different hour slots. So if you're filling out a block of time, just get your time done, and then that's it, whatever it is. Now, I think this math here would be good to have, and letting people know what we're actually looking for from each individual family.
Now, public address, is that, because that's pretty
Well,
much.
that's one of the things that typically here I would do. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
and the
like,
scoreboard.
if we
Well,
wanna have these positions filled and have it operate smoothly, we're under basically the approach that, if something happens anywhere in the gym or in the building, we should be able to get up and leave and go take care of it, if it happens. If you're sitting at the scoreboard, you can't necessarily do that. So that's kinda how we're just trying to look at this.
But doing some simple numbers, it was $3,000, right, in the green, but $10 an hour, that's only 300 hours. And if there's 5 positions and you're doing 4 or 5 hour nights, that money goes fast. Like, so you'd have to.
So you wouldn't
know,
give them
total-
$10 an hour, they're there in the gym or nearby that they're gonna, things like the scoreboard too, is typically with the team that's playing, there's a lot of times they'll have people that can do that, the brother, the sister, somebody's gonna jump in and do those types of functions, they're gonna be they're literally gonna be watching the game. And those can change over as the games change over. The issue's gonna be though, when you get out of towners, and there's no Deerfield team playing, that you're gonna have to.
And that's the majority of our games,
Right.
let's be honest.
So I just did some quick math. If we could go with 6 brackets that we had last year and 8 teams in each one, and double elimination except for the championship, that's 14 games per bracket for a total of 84 games. That we're looking for coverage on.
Times 5.
Yeah, if you have 5 spots to fill.
400.
But you did do some measure of that last year when you had staff come and fill some of those 84
Right,
slots.
We found that we were juggling sometimes 3 or 4 things just to get it
Yeah.
done. And we did it,
Yeah.
but
You also had commission members that covered
And we did, yep.
stuff for you,
Yep,
too.
yep, we had commission members, the combination of the parents that did volunteer, the commission members, and, you know, hiring some staff here and there too, we got it done, but it's just, it's nicer with more hands.
You do the math on the other side, so how many adults do you have? You said you get a team of 11 and 11, it's 22, you get 10 and 8, right, is that what so there's 40?
Yeah, but not every family will do.
No, but just there's 40 kids that are potentially Deerfield kids, so of that, there's this, maybe, you know, there's either 50 adults, but then they're not gonna do it, and some of those have the siblings. So again, is it 40 people that potentially would be to fill those spots? So 84 divided by 40, you're gonna do 2 slots. Doesn't mean they will, or they'll be able to. You know, it's the other people. People work and they've got other commitments, and you're lucky to get the kid to the event. You know, my kid was at practice today. A friend brought him home. That's why I could be here. You know, so that's just the nature of it. Can't be in 2 places at once.
But do we wanna make a decision here, or do we wanna think about it? And, you wanna get this out there?
Yeah, I mean, this is ready to go, as
Yeah.
far as registration goes, so we just wanna know how our teams are gonna,
It doesn't sound like you're gonna know that till later in February anyhow,
I
so.
mean, what we could do is have the coaches talk to the parents, saying, hey,
Yeah.
look, we got a couple options on the table there. It's been 100% volunteer, but to do it, this is the commitment that parents need to commit to covering 3 games that could be ours or whoever's, but at least 3 games. Or, option B, we're trying to, you know, it's $10 per kid, or maybe it's 4 games, and then $10 per kid, 2 games. Versus, you know, or we'd rather pay $25 per kid and we'll pay someone to cover your spot. And just let the coaches get something to get back to you guys within the next 2 weeks, because that doesn't change what you're sending out to other towns, right?
right, but it's nice to just send it
Right.
out to everybody at once.
I mean, I think it would be good to send a clear message to all the Deerfield coaches exactly what are the options. I mean, I don't know if we wanna be presenting, 1,000 different ways to cover the tournament,
Right.
pay per kid, pay per team. Hey, it's 100% volunteer. I think we should have an idea of what we're looking at.
Do we think that the difference in saving $20 per family is gonna make a difference in the volunteerism? I think those people who are gonna volunteer whether they're paying or not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the biggest thing that hurts a volunteer is, like, I know Tammy last year went to do it, and it was all of a sudden, can you do these? Yeah, there's no one else showing up. And she was like, I've committed to this, and this is what I'm gonna do. Like, that's all, because
Yeah.
she had other plans that night. That I heard over and over, was just, because only a few people did do it. Then when other people didn't do it, it was like, the yeses got roped into more.
Right,
It's a common theme in general.
and that is true, there were some people that did sign up for certain things and they didn't show, so that's another thing.
Yeah, so I think that we really, in my perspective, it seems as though we need to really get that message to the parents, get a commitment from the parents. I don't think the incentive is whether they're paying a registration or not. I may be off base on that. I don't think that's really the motivation.
No, I just think that these parents are gonna say no, and that would be great. You can say no, but you'll have to pay to cover the cost. Like, if we have to pay somebody. Because I don't think it's fair that if Nate's covering, Jeff's covering, Dwight's covering, volunteering, and then we gotta pay for somebody else, and there's 3 kids on the teams that are playing for free, riding someone else's coattails. And the committee has to pay, or the Park and Rec has to pay people to cover those slots.
Mm.
That you just factor that in. Otherwise, we're asking the families that say yes to do too much. And I'm worried about us not getting them to continue to say yes. That's more what I was worried about.
So last year, did Deerfield teams pay anything to play?
No.
So
I don't think they ever have.
I'll make a proposal that we charge Deerfield teams half the cost, and we expect them to cover, a certain amount of time. And the money that they pay is to have to pay people to come and cover spots that aren't gonna be volunteered.
Either that, or like Kevin said, just to make it uniform across for each player. Each family's, it's $10 or $15 for the
Okay.
child to play. But stress to them, that's a discounted rate. barring we're gonna get.
Are you gonna lose players that way, though? Are you gonna have players that say they don't wanna play in the tournament?
Because they have to pay?
If that's the case, then I would, me and Jeff, might be able to, it would only be one team, but
Right.
we'll just merge and have just one team. I mean, I don't think, yeah, it's $10 to play in an unbelievable tournament.
Right, I'd
If
love-
they're, if,
So if you have 8 kids on your team, that's $80 a team, if you say $10 a kid.
Right.
Well, just do that.
The family thing feels weird though, because no other team is paying a variable cost depending on what size roster they're bringing.
It's
That
true.
feels weird.
But all the other teams have always paid in the past, and
So
Deerfield
just
teams
have Deerfield
haven't.
pay $200 and figure it out. I don't know.
Hmm.
Well, I think
I
in
could
the,
see parents
A
from
team is a
last year,
team,
because
is a team.
Deerfield teams got
It's not-
killed last year, a few of them.
I'd
Like,
love to
it
just
was
keep not
2 an
charging them
hour.
anything and just get the volunteer support, but how do you do that? That's the
Well,
thing.
the other thing we could do this year is don't charge them, and we stress you have to volunteer, and if it doesn't work this year, then next year, your team's gonna have to pay. I mean, if we wanna give them a shot this year, and I'd rather see it volunteer too and not charge them, I'd much rather see that. But I have seen in the past few years, no volunteers. And I've had people say, well, I'll give you $50, I don't wanna sit at the door.
Right.
It's like,
So why don't we announce it and say, hey, look, this is this, but we need to get signups by the 31st on what slots people are taking, and because if we can't fill the slots, Deerfield will have to pay for registration. And we could pitch it that way.
or not be part of the tournament.
yeah,
We'll either have to give up our slot, or to someone who's paying, or we'll have to pay.
what's the gap between when this regular Parks and Rec season ends and the tournament begins?
For a month, right?
So what
That's
teams
why I
have
think
done
it
in
should
the
be by
past?
the end of the regular season.
Yeah, they created travel teams, and we had coaches that, bought insurance certificates, and people bought uniforms, and we paid fees to go to different tournaments around, and it was, the travel team. And then when we get to Deerfield, we played there as well. And usually the Deerfield thing might have been free, but it was part of the continuity of a season. And, with that gap, and if some teams are only playing and working towards that one event, it's gonna be a much smaller fee. But I wanna go back, Jeff, just to what you said, I'll give you $50. Maybe the answer is make it 60 and you got a deal. That's what I'm saying, to do the math and figure out what it costs to do this event. But if somebody I'm all about volunteering, and I don't think I'm getting paid for tonight's session. But, and the reality is the reality. So what do you do? How do you fix what you actually have? And it's not fair to these guys to have to be running and scrambling and not supervising to the level.
well, I think their idea, I think right now it's not charging anything, but we need to have signups and commitments by the end of February, end of January, and if you're not committed, then it's gonna be $10 to play, or you don't play.
What if half the team signs up and the other doesn't? You just charge the ones that don't volunteer?
That's the other thing too, what's the threshold, what constitutes that the team has fulfilled their commitment? How many, is it how many games, hours,
You guys gotta figure that out.
It's a lot
Yeah.
of slots to fill. If you have 6 teams,
It
that's
is.
14 games to be covered.
It is.
With times 5 people per game.
And not saying that they have to do the entire
No,
thing.
I wouldn't
because
say
we
they
have
do the whole
other
thing.
means
I
of
think-
doing it too.
I mean, that.
You-
No,
you-
if you map that out, it's.
Yeah, but I mean,
the team is responsible for covering 14 games.
But I would say it's not, they don't have to cover the whole thing. We'll say they have to cover,
2 slots.
2 slots.
2 slots for each game.
I think 2 is reasonable, because I think about our smallest roster.
Yeah, because you're gonna have the same PA
Right.
people, you're gonna have the same.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, whatever it breaks down to. Yeah, I'm not looking to cover it.
Clear about that, what's the success, what marks success.
Yeah, well, I think that's what goes with, you don't have to pay, but we have to cover 2 slots,
2 games per player.
2
Well,
pay.
Just think about it, Katie, the smallest roster is 8, so that's $25 per family. So if you, two kind of makes sense, that's $12.50 an hour for volunteering, right? Because that's where you said you make it more, well, why would I pay more than
2
25?
slots.
Because the team could pay $25 per head, and it covers the $200 on our smallest roster, right?
84 games?
Yep.
5, call it 5 slots per game, because one of you guys are gonna be there most of the thing as sort of the overarching supervisor. So,
It's 420.
420. what you got. So if you get 40 adults, max, you know, that they're even able, that's 10 events per, that's a lot.
Plus your games where you're watching a kid play.
Yeah.
Gone to the gym for the month of March.
But then the reality is it's gonna be 22 or 23 people, the same faces you see in town all the time and everything, and they're gonna be, again, stressed to try to go beyond and fill those extra spots.
But I think that's, we have to be clear about how many games it is. If it's, hey, everybody has to sign up by January 31st for 2 games to cover. Right? Baby steps to volunteer, right? Getting
Right.
people involved. 2 games by this day, and if not, we're gonna end up, we'll have to pay a prorated fee or whatever.
In that game, you can do the door, you can do the school board, you can do, yeah,
And that's the key, is very clear about here's what your commitment is.
right. And get it out there so they can plan on it.
But then you guys will also know by the end of this month, how many games you guys gonna fill staff with.
Right.
That gives you a month and a half to get there.
Yep.
I think it's fair.
So clarify, we're gonna, sneeze. So you guys are gonna talk to your, well, you guys get to the coaches.
Yeah, we'll send out an email with exactly the guidelines of 2 games, 3 games, whatever it's gonna be, probably 2. Here's the sign-up sheet, you know. Unfortunately, we won't necessarily have an exact game schedule, which is gonna make it a little bit trickier, but we can say, here are the time slots for each day, starting with the 23rd. And then we can try to work around that, you know, as best we can.
Right.
You know, pending any weather or anything, this is how the tournament will flow. And then when we start placing teams in for the scheduling, you know, if there's a conflict and maybe a parent doesn't wanna work the game their kid plays, well, I guess we have to cross that bridge
Right.
when it happens.
We'll have to fill in, because there will be spots. It's
Right,
not-
but I think that's the only way to go about it,
Yeah,
you know.
I think that will work. We'll give it a shot.
Just one question about cash management when you're working the door. Is there any system of sort of sweeping the box? I remember once, like, came from my shift, and there was like a big pile of money, and then I was there for a couple of hours, and there was a bigger pile of money, and I just, you know, we never counted, never did anything, it was just, okay. There just seems to be a lot of cash involved, that, I don't know if there's any mechanism, or, you know, leave them with $100, or, you know, every so often, do something to, I don't know what.
When you're working the door, you can figure that out.
I mean, I would say there probably wasn't last year because we
that's-
were at the table the whole time, so,
Yeah, as
Yeah.
far as us, we always counted everything each night,
yeah.
at the end. but
This
that-
predates you, so it's not,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's kinda how it rolled last year too, but you're right, something to think about.
Just if we do have people working the door as one of the assignments that, you know, even if people are completely honest, it's just, you just don't wanna have the, you know, any accusations over.
Be good to, like, if someone just keeping a simple ledger, like, tickets sold, dollars in, you know, you're just recording it as they go, right? And that way, by block of time, you know, for our records, you have an idea of what games people are going to, type of thing.
That means you need 2 people at the door,
Yeah,
for sure.
you're not gonna get 2 people at the door for the majority of the time, I don't think.
There's a lot happens for
Yeah.
about 20 minutes at the
Yeah.
door.
So
Teams,
I was just thinking like a
coming
simple
and going.
lined ledger book, that it's just,
yeah,
it's just, it's
Still-
hash marks even.
you still need
Yeah,
Here's
but that's
two
not gonna be
more, here's a
accurate.
second hash.
because you're also selling season, well, tournament passes, and then you're
Yeah.
checking passes as they come, and
Now it's a T-table. You
No,
know,
I think it's very, well, we can do it, but you need 2 people. Definitely need 2 people at the door, or else
For that.
you get people
yeah.
that walk by you, get people that try to get in.
Yeah,
Bring in food.
Well, I think you
Right,
need 2
that's the
people
other
anyways, because
thing you're
I watched
placing.
people just
Yeah,
walk through last year's.
Yeah.
You sat there, there's mayhem at the door.
yes, it was. Okay, we gotta keep going here.
So is that what we're doing? We're doing,
Yes,
let the parents know deadline is Thursday, January 31st.
is that the last, okay.
That's reasonable, yeah, it's
Yep.
And
part of a month, yeah.
if we don't have a commitment by then, child is ineligible, or then they pay? Like that is,
The team would pay.
Yeah, team pays, or you pay for your child.
okay.
'Cause yeah,
Set fee? Now, my question is if people find out that somebody was just able to pay $10, are now they gonna jump to, oh, well, I would rather pay $10?
No, that's gotta be
Yeah.
the team. If you don't sign up, your whole team has to pay.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna let the parents know if you don't wanna volunteer, you're gonna pay.
The whole team will pay. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you don't get, can you say every family has to have some sort of a commitment, or else the team is responsible as a whole to pay? Yeah, I'm defaulting a lot to you guys, I'm sorry for, because you know the folks on your teams and you know what you think maybe you can expect of them.
I just don't know what some of the schedules are like for some of the parents if they
Yeah,
work nights or something and they can't do it, then
Right,
the
yeah.
team
But
suffers.
that's, like, then as a team, we all come together and we're gonna cover these shifts, and then that's life. You're always gonna have people that
You could say,
aren't great and people that are great, but as a team, I would do it for my teammate. But if you're talking about now a per person thing, I'm gonna say, okay,
Right.
well, now how many, let me break this down. And my time is worth more than $4 an hour, so if I just have to pay $25, yeah.
what if we just
Yeah.
said 2 games per player? And so some teams, 8 teams, a person team would have 16, have 16 games, and 9-person would have 18 games, and just say, look, we have to cover 2 games per player as a team. And so if you had 10, we have to cover as a team 20 games.
So if you're a parent that has 2 kids, they're responsible for 4 games.
4 games. And then, but as a team, so this is what we have to cover as a team. And so if someone had 10, they'd have 20, you have 8, you'd have 16, we have to cover 16 games between all of us, or otherwise
right.
we end up
Gotcha.
having to pay.
How that team divvies it up is up to them, as long as they've got that number of slots covered.
And I think the fee's $200, just like everybody else.
Yeah, because if you're paying, you're $200 for 10 kids or 8 kids, it's,
Yeah, it's just, or otherwise you
So-
pay for the team. It's $200 for the team. Like,
Right.
we're doing this, or otherwise we end up having to pay, and the registration fee is $200.
Right.
I just keep it simple, nothing prorated or anything, just it's this, or we end up paying, and.
Okay.
Does that work?
makes more sense.
You good with that, Katie?
Sorry, I'm doing
You should sit up here.
We should have went to item 10.
All right, let's run through these last 3 here. After-school staffing update.
I'm gonna be real quick. We have one more offer out to a potential staff aide. I haven't heard back yet. And then once Deb gets back from leave on her surgery, we are gonna evaluate the overall health of the staffing situation to see if we can't get rid of some more names off that wait list. I feel like we're getting really close, but I just wanna have her here to talk that over too. Other than that, I just wanted to throw that update out there since that wait list is still active.
How many on it?
I believe we're down to 10.
And better.
The upgrade to $10 an hour made a difference
Yeah,
for getting people.
it did, yeah. It made the position a lot more attractive, that's for sure.
Okay, chairman discussion. I am gonna step down. If we wanna wait, we can talk about it next meeting when everybody's here, unless,
You can move that up the agenda.
again, yeah. So I'll carry it through till February, but that'll be my last meeting as chairman. So you guys can talk about whether you wanna co-chair or what you wanna do, so. Citizens' comments.
I had, just 2 things I wanna mention. In terms of your baseball and your softball signups, are you doing anything with, yes, I would be interested in running concessions, or no, charge me an extra $100? I know it's a whole nother 45-minute discussion, but we talked a little bit about bringing the concessions at Hartford Brook to life. So just a thought, maybe even if you could collect people's email addresses when they register their kid, that yes, I would be willing to serve a shift in the concession stand, then maybe at least have an audience to tap into later. And then I don't think we ever got a soccer recap on how did Candia like working with us? Did we have them, I don't, not tonight, because I know you're at the end, but maybe on for the agenda next month, the program as a whole. Recap.
We did sit with them, so we will have some updates.
That's all.
What about Ernie?
So Ernie handed in his resignation as of January 1st. So we have a position to fill. It's through March of 2020. We have a candidate that's very interested and willing to come in. They just need to send a letter, email, saying they're interested, and then we can put them on. We can fill this position because it's filling out a position.
We can't vote on it tonight, just get it filled.
It hasn't been, it's not official yet,
Yeah, it hasn't been formally submitted.
not formally submitted, so we shouldn't.
Oh, okay.
But probably the next meeting, they can be sitting up here. We'll have to do the form, and they'll have to sign the form and get sworn in. But we can fill that, like I said, as an interim spot, and then when other ones come up, they can be filled. Anything else from anybody?
Do you have any concern about attendance with the members that we have now? Is there any way to address that?
I have concern about one that hasn't been here at all.
That's-
Yeah, but I think the next chairman can deal with that.
Are are those excused absences, or, no, okay.
I think one or two, one was, but, yeah.
Just for a future meeting, you were asking anything else, update on the communication system, like using Rec Desk to do that again?
Yep,
Just trying to get you a tool to work with, but it can certainly wait to another meeting.
for sure, yeah. I will have an update.
Yeah, and to follow up on that communication, make sure stuff gets into the bridge at the school.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just an email over to Candy, and she'll put whatever you said in. That's catches a lot of people.
And not to backtrack to the Hoop Classic, but is this anything you guys wanted to touch base on tonight, or?
We brought them, but, I mean, I know we're trying to move these things along. I mean, we can go back if people want. It can be real quick.
I just didn't know if that's something that's pertinent to private.
Well, it's just all part of the tournament. Real quick, I guess going back, the updated rule sheet, Nick and I, we listened to some coaches last year, as well as looked at ways that we could improve the tournament. One of the things was they thought the games were a little too short, so we lengthened each half a little bit. We really thought, after looking at the scores of all the games, all 77 games that were played last year, because we only had 46 teams instead of 48. According to the rules last year, there was stoppage time in each half, but we noticed that some of those games were decided by 15-plus points. Is that time well spent stopping the clock for those games? So we reduced the stoppage time just to the second half. There was questions whether both man and zone defense could be played in last year's tournament, so it's in the rules, trying to put everything right up there in front. One of the things that we experimented with last year that didn't get a great feedback was having the clock run up until the player caught the ball to shoot the free throws. Now they were just stopping it right at the whistle. It's gonna leave more time on the clock for the players to play. And then this is something that Nick and I talked about from a scheduling standpoint at the end of the tournament, and trying to figure out what to do with that quote-unquote second game if necessary in the double elimination tournament, should the team coming out of the losers bracket beat the team in the winners bracket. Because last year's schedule said they would return on a Sunday. We only had one that needed to go to a second game last year, and they said, well, we've got 20 minutes until the next game. Can we just play it now instead of having to come back? But they said both teams were tired. So that's where we decided that we think winner takes all in a championship game. You battle your way from the winner's side, from the loser's side. Whoever wins, wins. And we think that we've both seen tournaments done that way. So, you know, I know this is probably the first time, Nate, that you've seen that update, because we've been working with you on some of these changes as well. You know, that's probably one that probably is surprising to you. I don't know if you have thoughts or feedback on that, as well as anybody else. And then not to negate that, but moving to the other sheet, Nick and I have worked on setting up sponsorship levels for our tournament, as another means and ways to maybe offset some of those costs that we're talking about, for having to hire on staff, to help run the tournament if we don't get the volunteers that are necessary. We think that we put together some pretty good, sponsorship packages and levels and, what they're gonna get, you know, a name on back of t-shirts. We're looking to create a banner that's gonna go up, by the scorer's table, that's gonna be front and center, and a bunch of different other things that are listed in that. So wanted you guys just to have it, to look at it in your time. So that's all that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So are we gonna incorporate a 50/50 raffle too through all this, when this is all happening?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that, for a 50/50 raffle, would we want to, last thing, kind of do it and announce the winner championship weekend? And just have a ongoing 50/50, or should we?
Oh, you mean have it run throughout the whole tournament and don't need to be
And
present?
one-
I think you would probably get more people to, you know, as that money gets up and you could announce it every day or every weekend, what the pot's up to. You get that money up there pretty high, you're gonna find people continuing to buy tickets.
Yeah, so,
Now, I guess my only concern or question is, we also do the 3-point at halftime. So I'm just wondering if we're gonna have too many things going on at once.
I think they're two different things.
Yeah.
That one benefits the tournament directly.
Right.
So we wouldn't want to hurt that or negate the Joe Stone.
Right.
Right.
We could have we could do a thermometer sign or something like that for the 50/50 raffle. So as it's growing, it's right there, maybe when they're coming in buying their tickets, I see something there, 50/50 raffles up to, and
If somebody buys a ticket on the first game and never buys another one, they could still win the whole pot.
Yeah.
Yep.
They could stuff it every game by 2 or 3, or,
we would just need whoever's collecting the 50/50 to have a separate
Yeah, it would have to be separate.
purse,
Right.
separate
Right.
bag, or whatever, because we have
Right.
the separate can for the 3-point contest.
Yep.
So just have another, like, just a bank bag.
right,
Just do that at the door, right? That's when the cash is
you
being
do,
handled.
There
you
you
go
go.
for the thing at halftime.
halftime, walk,
collect.
just walk
Yep.
down in front, right?
Something to think about.
Okay, take a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That drops
We're
here.
gonna go there for 10 minutes.
Next Tuesday,
You
yeah.
guys cannot stay late.
Back to Tuesday, we'll get in touch with you.
Well, no, you know, I have to get my car right now.
Glad